kind of freak scene, I guess, started in the mid-'60s in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. There's been a lot written about that. As far as the immediate circle around, you know, the Mother's world and so forth, there was, you know, Carl Franzoni and Vito and the GTOs and a lot of assorted, strange people. But there again, keep in mind it was the hippie freak out era. I mean, I don't know if anybody called themselves that yet, but that's what it was. And although I guess they started calling the shows freakouts. They did some of the early shows of the Whiskey A Go-Go, and they had the freakouts. You know, it was really hip then, and it appealed to me on a certain level. It's just that I wasn't that way. I mean, I was, to me, it was kind of amateurish. You know, I never really felt that. I mean, I knew a lot of the people and I liked them, and sometimes they did shows with them and they get up on the stage and do silly stuff, and we'd see each other up at the log cabin, and I really liked all the people and all that kind of thing. But there was a separation between the band and I guess Frank and those people, and I think it finally got a little too close, and that's when Frank had to leave the log cabin because there's getting too many weirdos coming around. But I have to say, he invited it. You know, he was you know, he liked to have odd people around him and see what he could. I think he was interested in it personally, but he also could use a lot of it in the Mother's material. And I think, I'm not sure about Frank, but I know Gail is very big-hearted, and I think she fed a lot of those people, and I imagine she let some of them crash in the basement or something. I don't know what was going on, but and they finally had to move, and they moved up, you know, up the top of Laurel Canyon there, and so. But it was a wild time, and there was a lot going on in Laurel Canyon. There's even been books written about it, and, but when we left town, that was it. I mean, when we go on a tour, it was a whole other thing, and then of course everybody had families, you know. So we go to the log cabin, we go to the rehearsal, we go to the studio and do what we're supposed to do, but otherwise we pretty much hang around ourselves. Now I met some interesting characters that were kind of Frank had kind of invited in to get you know, stories or tape them on some stuff or use their material or something like that. I remember one guy, Crazy Jerry, was a wild guy. He's very strong. He was a speed freak, and he's very strong. And he used to be able to take those pieces of steel rebar, and he'd bend them across his chest. And he'd actually broke a couple of ribs doing it. So he was a pretty strange guy, very speedy, but very brilliant guy, very intelligent guy. He'd written a lot, and there were a few guys that I met around, and they were a lot of fun. But you know, you don't want to get into their lives, you know. But it was fun to, you know. Wild Man Fischer was another guy, Larry Fischer. Larry was a hell of a nice guy, you know, and really nice guy. He had, you know, some emotional issues, I think, but he was his heart was into it 110%. And he loved to sing, and I even played on his album. They did Frank produced an album with an evening with Wild Man Fischer, and I enjoyed playing on it. But I had to say I didn't like the relationship. You know, it seemed like Frank was kind of using him in a funny way. But I mean, he was over 21. He can do what he wants. You know.